They were not grand machines of steel and thunder, but fragments of human will born from despair, guided by hope. As they crossed the border, radar screens blinked awake. Sirens screamed. Yet above the chaos, the sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Explosions rippled across the capital, tearing through darkness. These modern military equipment, built not for spectacle but survival, painted the heavens crimson. Beneath that storm, airports fell silent, and cities trembled at the echo of invisible wings. And when dawn came, when smoke still lingered over glass and steel lines, two lines of soldiers met on a frozen bridge. They did not shout. They did not aim. They simply looked at one another, as if war itself had grown tired. Subscribe, not for a tale of fire, but for remembrance. For within every explosion, there is a whisper humanity still endures. It began without a declaration, without a trumpet's call, only a ripple in the wind. At exactly 23:55 hours, the command was whispered in a dim bunker outside Kiev. Launch. 31 UAVs lifted like embers into the autumn night. They moved without sound, without light, gliding through layers of fog that hid them from every radar pulse. In that silence, men stared at flickering screens, their faces washed in amber glow, their hearts counting each invisible heartbeat. Across the border, Moscow slept beneath a shroud of steel clouds. Then the sirens came. A low wail rising through the city like a wounded animal. Air defense systems roared awake. S-400 batteries, Panzer turrets, missile arcs that clawed the sky with white fire. The heavens were no longer dark. They became an orchestra of light and thunder. These modern military equipment, so precise and powerful, turned night into chaos. Missiles streaked like comets, bursting into showers of flame above apartment towers. Children woke crying. Windows shattered. From the Domodedovo and Zhukovsky airports, columns of smoke spiraled upward, illuminated by the city's own defenses. In the Kiev bunker, no one spoke. Operators watched small dots blink and vanish one by one, each a silent death. Then, through static, a signal heralded a drone had pierced the defense net. At 2:37 hours, the southern horizon of Moscow erupted in orange light. Fuel depots burned, terminals cracked, and the roar of flames drowned every other sound. For 3 hours, the capital became a battlefield without soldiers. Firefighters fought invisible enemies. Pilots waited in grounded aircraft, unable to take off. On social networks, red skies reflected on glass tower sea, proof that distance meant nothing anymore. When the last explosion faded, the city fell into a strange, aching quiet. Streets glimmered with ash. The air smelt of burned metal and jet fuel. Somewhere beneath that silence, people realized that war had found the Moran not through invasion, but through innovation. In Kiev, the commander removed his headset, eyes hollow from the blue light of the monitors. No cheer, no triumph. Only a murmur from a young engineer beside him. Tonight, the sky knows we are still fighting. The commander nodded, voice low and worn. We fight not for conquest, but to remember who we are. Outside, dawn crept across the steppe, pale and exhausted. The drones had returned to dust, but their echoes lingered in the air like ghosts, reminders that in modern war, silence can be deadlier than any roar. 3 days after the fire, the smoke above Moscow had thinned, yet its scent clung to the air like a wound refusing to close. Across the border, in the frost-bitten valleys near Sumy, engines murmured beneath a heavy mist. The war had not ended, it had merely paused to breathe. At dawn, 2 convoys appeared from opposite horizons, moving slowly towards a half-collapsed bridge that crossed a frozen river. One bore the yellow and blue of Ukraine, the other the deep crimson of Russia. Their tires cracked thin ice as they stopped on either bank. No drums, no banners, no photographers shouting. Only the sound of wind slipping through the steel girders. On the Ukrainian side stood a young officer whose eyes carried both defiance and loss. His brother had fallen 2 winters ago near Bakhmut. Opposite him, a Russian colonel, silver-haired and stern, leaned on a cane. They did not salute, they only nodded, acknowledging the weary truth that neither victory nor defeat could mend what had been broken. A loudspeaker crackled. "Exchange begins." From the Ukrainian line stepped a gaunt soldier, his shoulder wrapped in a rough field dressing. He limped forward, the wind tugging at his torn sleeve. Halfway across, he lifted his gaze and met the eyes of his comrades waiting beyond. No words passed, only a brief nod, the language of those who have lived too long with death. From the opposite side, a Russian soldier moved to meet him. They passed each other in silence, 2 shadows crossing paths in a world that had forgotten how to listen. Cameras recorded the moment, but the footage captured something rarer than victory, the absence of hate. More men followed, step by slow step. Some leaned on crutches. Others carried the weight of memory heavier than any pack. The colonel watched as the final group crossed. His hand trembled once, then steadied against the cold. When the last prisoner reached safety, both officers turned away without a word. Behind them, 2 flags fluttered, not as emblems of triumph, but of survival. The bridge groaned under the wind, its broken steel reflecting the pale light of morning. Far away, church bells began to toll across ruined villages. For a moment, it seemed the earth itself was exhaling. In the bunker near Kiev, the same commander watched the footage. He whispered to no one in particular, "War teaches us to fight, but peace teaches us to remember." And somewhere in that frozen silence, the world dared to hope, if only for a breath, that understanding might one day replace the sound of guns. It was 4 o'clock in the morning on the 7th of September 2025 when the sea turned into a mirror of steel. Along the silent coast of Crimea, the Russian radar nets pulsed steadily, sweeping the horizon like blind eyes convinced they could still see. Yet somewhere beyond that line, invisible wings were already moving. In a command post hidden under the dunes near Kerch, the Ukrainian Her task force had been awake for weeks, studying the rhythm of the enemy. Every signal, every radar sweep, every silence had been mapped like the heartbeat of a giant. On the screen, a red circle marked the objective ATO or M2 system, the spine of Russia's low-altitude defenses. Destroy it, and the entire coastal network would fall blind. Phase 1. Now, initiate decoy flight, ordered the commander. His voice was calm, almost serene. 2 UAVs shot off their rails, cutting through the night at 15 meters above the sea. One climbed slightly, broadcasting false radar echoes like a small storm. The other sank low, its engine whispering. For a moment, the radar on the Russian shore flickered, confused by the illusion. Within seconds, it locked onto the decoy. The true strike vehicle slipped in from the right flank, unseen. At 4:11:57, the bunker screens blazed white. A single flash out, then silence. The Tor M2 vanished from every monitor. Its antenna, its guidance system, everything reduced to molten fragments scattered across the sand. In that instant, the western coastline of Crimea went blind. Phase 2, Naval Corridor. Far out at sea, 2 Cerner-class landing ships began their approach, unaware that their guardian eyes were gone. Their aluminium hulls glimmered faintly under the moonlight. From a hidden Ukrainian pier, 3 small shapes emerged, unmanned surface vessels, their warheads silent beneath the foam. They split formation like hunting dogs. One veered left, one right, one held the center. Well, the first impact came at 4:14:09. A thunderclap beneath the waves. The lead Cerner cracked open, its hull folding inward like paper. Flames leapt skyward, painting the water in orange reflections. Seconds later, the second vessel was struck. Its radar collapsed, its engines dying mid-scream. In less than 5 minutes, the entire amphibious corridor of western Crimea had fallen into silence. The sea, once a fortress, became a graveyard. Back in the bunker, the commander whispered, "Confirm destruction. All units withdraw. No celebration, no applause. Only the sound of air conditioning and the soft click of a pen against metal. For the first time in years, the Black Sea's horizon was clear. No radar sweeps, no patrol echoes, only the faint hum of dawn over a battlefield that no longer existed. When the shock wave rolled across the Black Sea, the silence that followed was almost holy. Flames clawed the sky, where the Cerna-class ships had vanished, their twisted frames sinking slowly beneath the waves. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stall. Then the radios erupted. Frantic Russian transmissions overlapped, cut by static, echoing panic. At Sevastopol's command center, alarms shrieked through the concrete corridors. Screens flashed blank where radar once glowed. Officers shouted coordinates that no longer existed. The coastal grid, once a seamless web of defenso, had gone dark. Within 3 minutes, the peninsula's western flank was blind, its proud iron shield shattered. These modern military equipment, forged for dominance, had been undone not by power but by perception. A single misdirection, a moment of doubt, and the fortress crumbled. Intelligence had outflanked steel. From the Ukrainian bunker, the operators watched the feed in silence. On one monitor, a camera mounted to a returning UAV captured the CO, a burning horizon, smoke curling upward in ribbons. The commander's voice was steady. Cease all signals. Let them listen to their own silence. Outside, the first light of dawn spilled over the dunes, painting every crater in gold. The men stood still, breathing the same air that moments ago carried war. One of them, a young technician, spoke softly. They will rebuild. They always do. Go! The commander nodded. Yes, but now they knows they can be reached. Far to the north, satellites recorded the aftermath. 2 black scars upon the water, trails of oil drifting like ink across parchment. Western analysts called it a tactical strike. But those who had seen it firsthand knew it was Morade, a message written in precision and fire. For years, the world believed that defenses of iron could guarantee safety. Tonight, that illusion drowned beneath the Black Sea. From now on, no wall of steel would be high enough, no radar wide enough to stop what could think for itself. At 042 hours, the commander finally turned off the main console. The bunker fell into darkness, save for a single blinking light, a reminder of power still humming somewhere in the deep. He looked once more at the map, its empty grids, its vanished targets, and whispered, "Intelligence is the weapon that does not rust." The phrase hung in the air, quiet yet immense. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the faint smell of salt and smoke. Crimea was silent now. Its proud iron shore collapsed not by invasion but by evolution. And in that stillness, the era of blind warfare ended. By mid-morning, the Black Sea had fallen silent. The waves rolled as they always had, indifferent to victory or loss. From the bunker near Kerch, the operators emerged one by one, eyes red from sleepless nights, faces marked by blue light and dust. The air smelled of oil, metal, and saltoth, the scent of both war and survival. Or they had won. Yet no one spoke the word. The commander stood by the entrance, watching the faint horizon where smoke dissolved into the dawn. Ships no longer moved there. The radar screens were blank. For the first time in years, the sea seemed empty. A young technician approached him, holding a cracked tablet that still displayed the mission feed. The final frame froze on a single moment as water folding over fire. "Is this what victory looks like?" he asked. The commander did not answer at once. He took the tablet, turned it off, and placed it gently on the concrete ledge. "Victory," he said at last, "is a pause between two kinds of silence." Around them, the world stirred back to life. Radios crackled with new orders, logistics teams moved, but the mood had shifted. What had begun as an operation now felt like an elegy. In Kyiv, news of the success spread quietly through encrypted channels. No public announcement, no cheering headlines. Those who knew simply looked up at the morning sky, a sky once filled with drones and fire, and wondered how long before it burned again. In Moscow, officials spoke of containment, of stability restored. Yet, behind their words lingered unease. Citizens avoided looking at the scarred airports, as if pretending could erase the memory. And, across that vast divide, mothers still waited for messages that would never come. Farmers plowed fields scarred by craters, rebuilding walls that had fallen more times than they could count. The commander returned to his quarters at dusk. He poured a cup of cold tea and sat by the window, watching the horizon fade. The young technician passed by and saluted softly. "Sir, what happens next?" He smiled faintly. "Next, we rebuild the silence until someone breaks it again." Outside, the wind carried the scent of grass and fuel. It moved across empty fields, through ruined villages, past graves without names. Somewhere, a church bell rang. And for a brief, fragile moment, it felt as though the world was breathing again, not in triumph, but in endurance. For in every horizon touched by war, there still remains the smallest glimmer of humanity, refusing to die. When all the maps are redrawn and the gunfire fades into history, what remains is never the steel, but the silence. Wars end, yet their echoes wander through generations, whispering reminders of how fragile peace can be. These military equipment that once lit the sky above Moscow now rest in pieces, silent relics of human brilliance and human folly alike. Their fragments lie beneath the waters of Crimea, among the rusting frames of ships and the ashes of airports. But beyond the wreckage, something else endures, the will to rise again. Because true military equipment is not forged in factories or measured by payloads. It is built in the quiet resolve of those who dare to think, to create, to survive. In every drone's hum, in every radar pulse, there beats the echo of the human heart. Flawed, determined, unbroken. And one day, these instruments of destruction may yet serve a gentler cause. One day, the same hands that built weapons will build bridges. The same minds that mastered warfare will master compassion. For every battlefield hides a lesson. The strength to fight is nothing without the courage to forgive. As night falls again over the Black Sea, the wind carries no smoke, only the faint whisper of waves against ruined piers. Somewhere, in a quiet chapel near Kiev, candles burn for the lost and the living alike. Their light trembles, soft yet defiant a final testament that even in the darkest hour, humanity still chooses to hope. So may these military equipment one day guard not borders, but peace. May their purpose shift from conquest to compassion, and may those who once fought beneath burning skies learn to look upward again, not in fear, but in remembrance. Peace, freedom. When the night sky over Moscow turned into a furnace of light, few understood what it meant. Was it victory? Or a warning carved in flame? Dozens of drones, small, silent, unshaken, rolled from the east like a swarm of silver ghosts.